Hey everybody, this is Shawn Cunningham here with my brother Kyle Cunningham for our weekly podcast on all things real estate in Las Vegas and among other topics that we come up with on the fly. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, I think the topic of the day is definitely price changes, market shifting under our feet, something that people are interested in learning more about and talking about. I think as agents, sometimes we are looked to as experts, but the Vegas market the last 3 years has been unpredictable. There have been times when we thought we would have a collapse when COVID hit, and instead we had a boom. And so predicting one thing from week to week is somewhat requiring of a magic ball. But right now we're seeing for sure a shift in the marketplace from a very strong seller's market to what I would call a neutral market. Prices are definitely stagnating. Inventory is up 200% year over year, which means that there's twice as many homes to sell or for purchase now as there were a year ago.
Actually, that'd be 3 times more, but that's okay. I'll help with the math skills. 200% with 3 times more.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, we got about 5,700 homes in the market, single-family homes in the market. And last year at this time we had, obviously under 2,000. And what's really changed is you're seeing homes that are not flying, quickly. In some cases, they're not selling at all. You have to do a price reduction. It's still not a buyer's market. A buyer's market requires more inventory. It's a strange market, quite frankly, because their listings are not selling at the price people want to get. You have to reduce the price, and then they're buyers that really can't get what they want either because there's not a ton of options out there. And so it's a strange sort of a market. I think really we're just in a transitional phase right now, and I think it'll shift. There was an article yesterday in the RJ that we had our first price reduction in years. It's like I think we dropped 0.2% or something like that from May to June. So you may see 5% or even a 10% correction in prices. However, I don't think that's a permanent thing. I think it's more due to the fact that there's just homes are not moving right now. There's kind of a freeze on things for a moment. And so, but again, we have buyers that are not, it's not like you can just go out and pick any house you want to and get any price either. It'd be very clear. Like there's not enough inventory. So for example, in 2009, when the market bottomed out, we had over 28,000 homes in the market. You could go buy any house you wanted to, make an offer. I mean, there were bank repos everywhere. We're not going to get anywhere close to that. So it's going to be a market of transition, as it often is in Vegas, in my opinion.
But I think, but it's also true that as a buyer, there's not the same rush. I'm seeing, even at the low price points, I'm seeing 400 homes taking weeks to sell. So my point being that if it's a well-priced property, if it is renovated, beautiful, if it's obviously a killer property, you're going to get multiple offers still. But it's got to be priced well. It's got to show well. So the good news is that realtors are back in vogue again. It's funny when the market sort of booms that we're not as valuable. Now we are. We have to do things like make sure the property looks good, good photography, good videography, really presents well. We've done a good thorough job preparing it for sale because you can't just throw something on the market and at any price and hope it'll go. So we got to do our due diligence and get it ready to be sold. So that's what
I look at as levels. I should create something and patent it, but basically, a month ago it was like you got to be a little bit. We had listings a month ago. They just still were selling. You wouldn't get multiple offers, but they would sell in a few days. And now we're getting more and more to where you've got to be ultra prepared. And so what that means is, I had a client yesterday. It's like I told him just fix the place up. He can afford it. Just fix it up. So if it needs paint, carpet, just do the paint, carpet. And price it correctly, and then try to sell and let your neighbors sit on the market. Because there's 4 homes listed, 2 of them are listed the way we listed it in January, where people just threw anything on the market and it needed renovation and it's overpriced. They'll just sit, and yours will be the one to sell because yours is fixed up, priced correctly, great photos, professionally marketed, easy to show. Those homes will sell. And so right now, either you're going to sell your house or you're going to sell your neighbor's house. It's kind of the market we're in right now for sellers. And for buyers, it's a little bit trickier. For buyers, it's like we always say, if you need to buy or you want to buy a house, buy a house. It's not a bad time at all to buy a house. You say, oh, what if prices drop 5%? Okay, then wait 3 months. And you don't know what's going to happen. So the issue is when you wait and try to time the market out, you're assuming you know what's going to happen. And all we can do is speculate. And that, 20 years, 15 years, 35 years real estate experience here, I don't care when anybody tells you, they don't know what's going to happen. They're guessing. If rates go up another percent and prices drop 5%, it doesn't matter. If rates could go down, prices could go up. You don't know what's going to happen. So you time for yourself and buy if you want to buy. Well, I would negotiate. By the way, I'm telling all my buyers right now, I would not go into bidding war unless it's your dream house. I would not get into a bidding war for a house. And there are some homes that still have multiple offers. So right now is the time to negotiate and to be firm on that. Negotiate. You have a position of strength, generally speaking. However, not all sellers will negotiate. I'm very clear. We've had some offers lately. The sellers thought, I'd rather just not sell it. Because people don't have to. They don't have to take less money, and usually they have equity. They can rent it out. So you got to find a situation where you can negotiate, but just focus on that, on the opportunities that are out there.
Well, you brought up a good point. Rents are also on a different trajectory. Rental prices in Las Vegas have boomed in the last 3 years. We went from a scenario where you could rent a single-family home in a nice neighborhood for $1,500 a month, a larger home. 8 years ago, to now that same home being double that in price. And now we're seeing a cooling off of the rental market too, where again, same situation, rents are still much higher than they used to be. No matter what you do, you're gonna pay more in rent, but they're not accelerating anymore. Now you're seeing a leveling off, and for condos, even a reduction. It's starting to come down in price points, which makes sense when you think about the nature of condos. There's a lot of them out there, a lot of apartment complexes that are competing. I saw the Lifetime opening a rental luxury rental apartment complex over by the gym in Henderson, and what they're asking for in rents is astronomical. And I'm wondering now, are
like $3,500 a month, right, for a condo?
No, $4,000 a month.
$4,000 a month for a condo.
For minimum $4,000 up to $7,000. And I'm wondering is that really reflective of where we are? Is that maybe a delayed reaction? I'm curious to see if those prices start to come down, because you don't really need to pay that much to get a luxury experience now, especially where rents are. And again, same situation on rental properties as resale. If their homes are nice and you get them out there in the right way, you'll attract a good tenant, but you can't put crap out there and expect to get high prices anymore. People aren't gonna pay it. So actually, in some ways, the market is correcting itself a little bit. I don't see it as being a dour situation. I see it as being it was overheated to begin with. So if we drop 5%, that's probably what we should do. It'll be more normalized marketplace, more rationally affordable. And I guess that's the whole point of raising interest rates, to give us something that's more reasonable.
The Fed wants to slow down the real estate market. I mean, they said so directly.
I mean, that's good for affordability.
Yeah, but the question, of course, is why is this happening? Beyond the obvious interest rates going up, I think there's more to the story than that. I think the reason the market went crazy to begin with, it wasn't just because rates were low. Rates have been low for a decade. The market went nuts after the pandemic because people decided now's the time to change my life. And that's why it doesn't get talked about enough. Like in RJ, in the Review Journal, there's always an article about Eli and RJ. I've been in there a few times with articles. He always says, well, it's cheap money fueled buying. I would hate when he says that. It's not really true. Like cheap money is like a little bit of gasoline on the fire. The fire was ignited by people wanting to change their life. If you were ready to retire 5 years from now, let's retire now. If you want to change your job or you want to work remotely, when something terrible like a pandemic occurs or a war, there's always this massive rearranging of people's lives, and the real estate market tends to go a little crazy. And that's what occurred. Now, when the rates went up, people said, okay, maybe I'll just wait now. Wherever you are now, you'll just stay there a little longer. That's what's happening. It's not like there's fewer people that need homes. There's still a shortage of housing. But now it's like, wherever you are, I'll just stay there a little bit longer and see what happens. And that's happening a lot now. It's like, let's just wait and see. And when people say, let's just wait and see, the market will, and this has happened, it happens, it's not our first rodeo, let's put it that way. Yeah. It's happened before. It's like, you always see the signs of it. People cancel the real estate deals more often. They'll say, let's just wait and see. I have people who are saying, I'll just rent and see what happens in the market. Those kind of situations will occur more when things are in transition. But I believe in the next few months, that will shake that off and people will get back to moving again, and you'll see things normalize. And so I do not believe that we'll have a 2009 like a 2-year-long sustained decline like we had when the market tanked. The fundamentals are not there for it. There's just not enough homes. We would need a massive number of people to just walk away from their houses, and which is not going to happen in this market.
And where are they going to go?
Yeah.
They're going to go in the rental market and pay sky-high rents?
No. If you're a buyer, actually, I think now is a great time to buy, by the way, because I think there's a little bit of I think there may be opportunities to get a deal here and there in this market because sellers want to sell, and they will overinterpret. The people who really need to sell are the ones that are probably selling. And if you don't really need to sell, you're probably not going to list your house right now. I mean, why would you? I mean, you'll just wait for some future time where you feel better. So if you're a buyer, you really should be out there looking for some deals. And again, if you need to sell your house, sell your house. It's going to sell, but you got to be prepared for it. You got to really do your homework ahead of time. You can't just throw it on the market. And I just had a client I talked to they want to list their house. It needs to be renovated, really, but they can't really do the renovations. And so, again, that's fine, but now we have to adjust our expectations. 6 months ago, you could throw any house in the market and get multiple offers. You're not going to get that on a renovated house right now, but it will still sell. There's plenty of buyers. There's still investors out there. There's still hedge funds buying. There's still a lot of people buying homes right now. So just go into it with the right expectations.
Yeah, doesn't matter. I like how you worked in that you've been in the RJ a few times. Thanks for dropping that in there.
You've been there too. You were there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but I didn't name drop that.
That's all right. Nobody cares. Nobody reads the newspaper. Nobody cares. I read it.
Anyhow, yeah, I think that's a good wrapping up of that conversation. I do think there's different marketplaces right now going on. I still think the lower price points might be affected more than the higher, because at the end of the day, if you are a marginal buyer, and that, well, let me use a different term, if you are on the borderline of being able to afford a home, interest rates spike a point, that's a massive change, and that could push you out of the marketplace. If you are well qualified, lots of income, maybe it didn't have as much of an effect. So $800,000, $900,000 price point, especially if something nice, might still be selling, because you're saying you're having trouble finding buyers in that price point of property. So I think there's more opportunity there for sellers in the higher price points. The lower price points, ironically, might be more of a challenge. Because I'm seeing lower price points probably sitting right now. So I'm seeing more challenges there than the higher prices, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency for people to list homes that are overpriced and underprepared in the lower price ranges, and I think that's what you're seeing. But yeah.
I also think investors. I still think investors are going to come back in the market this year, because I think there's interesting dynamic playing out where the stock market is not doing well. And most of our investor clients, because I work with a lot of investors, most of them are heavily invested in the stock market, and they tend to get skittish when the market starts to tumble. So then, okay, where are you going to put your money? Cash is definitely not where you want to put it. You don't leave it in cash, because inflation is going to whittle down the value of it.
Inflation is like a tax on cash.
It's like a tax on it. So then what do? You go to real estate. That's why I think eventually they have no choice but to turn back to real estate, and if the investors.
Well, they already have. We have investors buying. Investors are buying. They're buying and selling. The investors are making moves right now because. Anytime, so when there's a change in the economy, there's a class of people, a small class of people, but the people that run the world essentially, that their primary concerns are what to do with the money, right? And that's about half our clients, our investors. And so they look at it and say, well, things are changing, so where the opportunities are right now, and they're on the move. And so, for example, let's say there's going to be a recession, which I think it probably will be a recession. It always is. If there's a recession next year, which is maybe 2024 at the latest, there'll be a recession, or maybe this year. Who knows? There'll be a recession at some point. Recessions tend to actually they don't tend to negatively affect real estate. I believe people think they do because they associate it to the only recession they can remember, which is 2008. But all the rest of recessions, real estate usually is not. The reason why, by the way, is because recessions usually end up causing a decline in interest rates. And so if there is a recession, it would probably be good for real estate in general because rates will go down. And that's kind of where, now I'm looking long term. I think this is a temporary thing right now we're in. I don't think we're going to go back to a crazy market. I think we're going to have a normalized market for a while. But if there's a recession, that will change.
Well, when there's a recession, it's not if, there's a when.
Yeah, well, whatever.
But I think the subject recession has come up as much as any other subject in the last few weeks. But there's a widespread misunderstanding from a lot of people on what recessions actually are. I mean, technically, there's two consecutive quarters of decline in GDP, which nobody cares about, but that's what it is. The point is that recessions are not something to fear. They're a natural part of evolution. They're going to come and go. I think that the FDR quote comes to mind. Nothing to fear but fear itself. Sometimes we're so afraid of the contraction that we overreact to it, and then we create more fear. The recessions will come. There'll be a correction. It doesn't mean the world's going to come to an end. They come all the time. Some businesses will do better. Some people make more money in a recession. Some people make less money in a recession. I think we have to look at that as just a natural evolution of things and not get terrified. If you want to buy a home, in particular, then just buy a home. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the question now. If you're worried about your job, I get that. That's a different conversation. But some jobs are recession-proof.
Unemployment's still in the mid-threes. So there's really no evidence of a recession from an employment standpoint.
Unemployment's as low as it's been in modern history. So let's just keep that in mind. So it's really hard to say that everything's so bad when the unemployment is low, consumer spending is still high, strong. Those are good fundamentals, I think. And the real estate market, for what we see as now, is still a strong market. It's just a different market. It's not a crazy one. So I feel pretty good about the future. And I think that if I've learned anything from my most successful clients is that you can't make decisions based off fear. And they always make decisions based off the long game. And the long game is how it pays off. So I'm thinking about the long term, not the next week, the next 2 weeks, what's going to happen. I think the fundamentals are good long term.
Yes, I agree. All right. What else we got to talk about?
Good question. Well, I don't know.
Have you got any trips planned?
No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. I've got to open a coffee shop.
Nice.
You're going to Spain.
Yeah, I'll be in Spain. Barcelona.
How are you going to do that and sell houses?
No big deal. You can sell houses from anywhere. That's what they made the internet for.
Yeah, we right now I'm working pretty heavily on opening a new coffee shop, and that'll be the end of this month. That's going to take up a lot of my attention, in addition to selling real estate and finding ways to get these properties sold for our listing clients. Shawn, on the other hand, will be traveling, gallivanting around the world, enjoying himself. So I'll be doing all the work.
Yep, I'll be flying Emirates business class to Barcelona. It'll be fun. We'll take a train trips to Europe. Madrid, one of my favorite cities to visit.
Quite bougie. I wish I could fly in business class.
Please. I never flew that. I've never been on the Etihad department, so I don't know what that's like.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Please. Anyway, yeah, you fly Southwest Airlines when you went to London. Did you take Southwest?
Yeah.
WestJet?
Direct flight.
Please. Anyway, yeah, I wish I could travel like the way you do. I'm staying in Airbnbs. I can't afford fancy hotels like you. $1,000 a night hotels in London? Not me. Airbnb.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I've been Airbnb, cooking my own meals.
After the Holiday Inn, quite lovely.
Yeah, anyway, the Hojo, Paris.
Quite lovely. Anyhow, I think we're good. Anything else you want to?
No, we're good. All right, send your questions for next week. Keep them coming, and we will answer them in our next podcast, which will be on Thursdays, sounds like. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.